Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy Voyager class Optimus Primal figure from Hasbro. So first let's take a look at the packaging, and also let me just give a shout out to the folks at Hasbro for sending me this figure so I could review it for you guys. Now, with all the packaging in this Kingdom line, I'm really digging it with the artwork. You can see here you've got Primal in both his 8 mode, and then it wraps around and you can see his robot mode. And you can see also the volcano in the back with the lava coming down and the arc at the top. On the very top of the packaging, because this is a Beast Wars figure, you've got the Maximal symbol as opposed to like an Autobot symbol. And then on this side of the packaging, you've got that artwork that is featured on all the boxes in the Kingdom line, which I think is very cool. I'd love to see a poster of this. You've got Galvatron, Unicron, so definitely some exciting things happening. And then finally on the back of the packaging, it gives you a look at the figure in both modes, both the 8 mode and the robot mode. Now once you open the figure, besides the figure itself, you'll also notice that you get one of these trading cards, and I've talked about these in my previous Kingdom reviews, so I'm not going to go into full detail, but you can see that this one is Optimus Prime. It's a hologram type card. So these are actually trading cards slash sticker cards. They kind of transform, so you can peel off the front here and it reveals another image. I don't know if that should be a spoiler or what have you, but it looks like Optimus Prime, a dead Optimus Prime. He's floating in space there, so we'll have to see if that has any actual meaning in the story. But on the back of the card, it's the same. You've got that symbol, and if you want, you can take this and stick it on your wall, or you can just stick it back on the card. There are 4 of these trading cards in the first wave. They are randomly inserted. They are found in all the Kingdom figures except for the smallest core one. You also get the instruction sheet, which shows you how to transform him from robot mode to 8 mode. Before I bring the figure in, I want to give a shout out to site sponsor Diorama Prince. They're the ones that have provided this backdrop that you see in the video. They specialize in backdrops for things like toy photography. I will put a link to their website in the video description below, and if you use the code TOYNEWS10, you can get 10% off on your next purchase with them. Now for the figure itself, first of all, I just want to say that this is actually one of the very first Beast War figures I've ever owned. If you've heard me talk about Transformers in the past, you know I'm not a super huge Beast Wars fan. I'm more of a G1 guy. I have watched the original Beast Wars series. I watched it later in later years when it came out on DVD, but I've never actually collected any of the toys because I really wasn't watching the cartoon when it first came out. I did enjoy the series. I thought it was a well done series, and I like how they kind of connected it with the G1 Transformers. But again, I'm not a super expert when it comes to Beast Wars, nor do I have a lot of Beast Wars figures. In fact, like I said, these Beast War figures in this Kingdom line are the first ones I've actually ever really owned. That being said, I actually really think this is a nice looking figure, especially in his robot mode. I have some complaints about his 8 mode, which I'll get into in a few moments, but I really am digging the head sculpt. I like how the eyes, the metallic red on the eyes, I think look really good. And then he's got that kind of standard Optimus Prime venting on his forehead. He's got the ears that are done with a metallic silver on the side, which I think looks really good. And he's got the white on the face. So I think they've done an outstanding job with the head sculpt on this one. And then he's got like the fur shoulder pads, and you've got some nice sculpting detail on his chest piece there. It does kind of stick out, so when you're looking at the figure from the top, you've got kind of that hole that kind of sticks out a little bit, but not a big deal to me. And you've got the red and the white on the arms there. He's got a lot of fur. And then again, you've got that kind of white grayish color on his legs, again with the red. And it's more of a metallic silver and a dark navy blue there at his waist section. And then going down to his legs, he's got the fur, and then his feet are a blue color with the red. So overall, I think all the colors pop nicely. The paint applications are pretty solid. On the back here, he's got the back piece where you can connect his 2 swords. So these are the 2 accessories that he comes with. and these are both exactly the same. You've got the blue that kind of matches his feet for the handles, and then the silver or grayish color for the blades, and pretty nice sculpting detail there for both of them. The swords connect to his back. You've got these little slits on his back there, and then you've got these little pegs that stick out on both sides of the swords. So you can put either sword on either side, but again, they just stick in there. And as long as you don't hit them with your hand when you're moving the figure around, they do stay attached to the figure pretty good. Now, besides his swords, he also has these shoulder cannons, and these are attached to the figure, and you can elevate them up straight up in the air, and then you can push them down. Now, I want to note with this one on the right side, it lays down flatter than this one, and I'm not entirely sure why. It seems like they both should lay down flat, but this left one, for some reason, that's about as far down as I've been able to get it. So I don't know if there's something a little bit off in my transformation, or if that's just how all the figures are. I'm not entirely sure, but just wanted to note that. But still, I think they look pretty good, and they're that kind of bluish color, so they match up with his helmet nicely. And then besides the shoulder cannons, he also has some wrist cannons. So with the wrist cannons, they're actually concealed within his arm, which I think is kind of cool. So what you want to do to get them out is you'll notice this little square spot on the bottom of his arm. And what you do is you just push on it, and that pushes out the wrist cannons, and it's on both arms. So you just kind of push it up. So then you have those, again, concealed in his arm, so he can do some blasting. So I definitely like that as an added feature on the figure. And here's a look at both cannons fully extended out of his arms. And once you have them extended out, you actually get some additional movement. You can actually kind of elevate them a little bit more so they're pointing more up in the air, or you can have them more level so they're pointing straight ahead. And going back to the swords, I just wanted to show you with his hands. You can see the hands are actually sculpted with a little bit of a circle there to match up with the sword. So what you want to do is you want to push it all the way back in that circle so that he will grip it tight, and then you can close the fingers. So he will hold the sword nice and tight, and you don't have to worry about it falling out. Now, Primal stands right about 6 inches tall. Now, for some size comparisons, here's a look at the Beast Wars Megatron figure, which is also being released in this first wave. Megatron is a leader class transformer, and you can see he is definitely taller than Primal. I've seen some people suggesting that Primal is maybe on the short side. I thought Primal was shorter than Megatron, but I won't swear to it. So, let me know if you think he's too short in the comments section. Here's a comparison of the Black Arachnia figure, which is a deluxe figure in this first Kingdom wave, and Primal is taller. And then finally, here's a look at the Optimus Prime, which is a leader class figure in this Kingdom wave that I reviewed yesterday, and you can see Optimus Prime is taller than Optimus Primal. Okay, so for articulation on this one, he can rotate his head all the way around, but that's about it. With this one, you don't get a whole lot of back and forth movement. You get a little rocking, but not too much, and then you get no pivot to the left and the right. Now with the arms, he does have these shoulder pads, but he can still get his arm out good, and then you also get good rotation at the shoulder. Those shoulder pads actually move with the arm, so it doesn't limit any of that movement. You can't do the arm up any more than that, but again, pretty good movement overall. You also get a rotation, a bicep type swivel. He gets good bending at the elbow. Really the only thing keeping him from bending more is the shoulder pad, but definitely good bending there. And then you've got rotation with the hands, so you can rotate. And then, as I mentioned before, you've got the finger articulation. All the fingers move as one piece, but you do have that as well. For the midsection, you've got rotation there at the midsection, so good movement there. He doesn't really have an ab crunch, but he can bend forward at the waist with the legs and everything, but no actual ab crunch with this one. Now with the legs, he can do the splits pretty good there, and then he can get his leg forward good, and then he can do the leg out and back. This back piece here, causes you to do the leg outward when you're doing it back. He does have a thigh swivel kind of around this ball joint. So up high, you've got some rotation. You can't rotate it all. Well, yeah, you can. So pretty good movement there around that ball joint with the leg. And then he's got good bending there at the knee, so you can bend there. And then he also has what I would call a boot cuff swivel, a little bit of rotation there. He can't rotate all the way around, but you do have some movement there. And then with the feet, it's more with the transformation. You've got the back toe articulation, which you can do down. You can do the front foot upward. You get a little bit of rocking movement, but not too much. Also up here with the arm, you don't have like a butterfly joint, but again, with the transformation, you do get some back and forth movement at the shoulder. Now, before we transform him from robot mode to ape mode, I just wanted to go back to these shoulder cannons, and I was playing around with them a little bit, and I was finally able to get that one right cannon to sit more flat on his shoulders. So it is possible. You just kind of have to fool around with it a little bit. And also another thing to note about these shoulder cannons, that you can actually tuck them inside his cavity here, his upper body cavity here, if you want to. It's kind of part of the transformation, but if you don't want those cannons showing, it is possible to tuck them underneath there, and I'll show you that as we transform him from his robot mode to his ape mode. Now, the actual transformation process is pretty simple overall. What I would suggest is take this piece, which it actually came unattached, but you want to take this piece, it'll be attached to the back here, and just pull it out and down. And then you take this front chest piece and just kind of flip it, and when you do that, it'll pop this whole upper body with his head out. So you want to do that, and then just go on and flip this around, and that forms his ape chest. So you can see that. You can then go on and take these shoulder pads and then just pop them down so they cover the white and red portion of his arms. So this makes his ape arms. So not really anything elaborate there. Then you can come down to his feet, and you can go on and push these portions up, these blue portions up, and then you can rotate the body, bring it around like this. So now he is facing forward, and you've got his ape toes, facing to the front. Now, one of the things I don't really like about his ape mode is this crotch piece. I think it looks kind of funny, and it also kind of limits, with the knee articulation, it limits some of his movement, which I'll go more into. But from there, what you can do is you can take, basically what you want to do is bring his ape head. So you want to grab the head itself. You've got a robot head and the ape head underneath. So you just pull it out. And then what you do is you can just go on and rotate it around. And this is where you can stick those shoulder cannons inside there. So you can have that, in his ape mode, they should be tucked in. But if you want, in his robot mode, you can leave them tucked in there so that they're not showing. Now all you do is you basically bring it down, and you rotate the head around, the ape head around, and just kind of tuck it and push it in. And then you take this piece and you actually flip it around so that it covers most of those white portions on his leg. Okay, so here he is in his ape mode, and once you have him in his ape mode, just like you did in robot mode, if you want to, you can take his swords and you can attach them to his back. He can also hold them in ape mode just like he could in robot mode, so really no difference there. But this is basically how he is in his ape mode. Now you can kind of turn these shoulder pieces, so they totally cover up the red. Though as you move the arms around, that red on his upper arm underneath there will show up. But again, this is basically how he looks in his ape mode. Now what I don't like about his ape mode here is, again, I don't like this crotch piece. It just doesn't look like a front, it almost looks like his butt, like it is in his robot mode. So I don't really like that. And then I don't like the leg articulation here. We'll go over all the articulation, I guess, real quick. So he can turn his head a little bit to the left and the right, but very limited. He can do his head up more, so you do get more head up movement with this head, but you can't rotate it all the way around. Now with the arms, he can get his arm out about that much, and he does once again have good rotation. It will hit those swords, but I'll go on and take those off. And then he still has the bicep swivel. He's got good bending. It's still at the arm. It's pretty much the same arm as in his robot mode. You've got the same rotation with the hands and the finger articulation. He can bend forward at the waist, but he still doesn't have any kind of ab crunch. And then with the legs, he can only do the splits about that much. And he can do the splits pretty good. But this is where it really starts to annoy me. So this portion of the knee, essentially the knee is backwards, so you can only do the knee forward, you can't do it back, and you can kind of do it out like this to try and get him in some ape poses, but I don't know, it just doesn't work very much. There should be like a double joint. I feel like if they'd done a double joint in the knee so that you could bring this back and then just kind of do this and kind of have it pivot backwards, that would have been better. So I feel like if they had added an extra joint in the knee, that would have done much better. So you really have to kind of play around with it to get him in good 8 standing type positions. I mean, if you just want him standing straight up, it's fine, but when you try and start getting him in other 8 positions, it gets to be kind of a pain because of the way the knee articulation is. You still have that kind of rotation, half rotation, maybe quarter rotation there. And then with the feet, again, when you start trying to pose him forward for 8 positions, the arms aren't really long enough to keep him standing up with his arms unless you just have him like this. So he tends to fall over. I would recommend that you actually extend back these back feet pieces, and that will give him a little more balance when you're trying to pose him in his 8 form. And just like his robot mode, you get a little bit of pivot with the feet, but not a whole lot. Now, in his 8 form, he's pretty much the same height. A lot depends on just how much you're bending him at the legs, but again, he's about 6 inches tall. And for comparison, here's a look at the Beast Wars Cheetor and Rat Trap that are also being released in this first wave. Cheetor is a deluxe figure and Rat Trap is a core figure. So overall, I would say in their animal modes, they scale pretty good with one another. One final note on Primal here, if you happen to get the Palatrex figure, which is a deluxe figure, there is a way where you can take Primal swords and combine it with pieces from Palatrex and create kind of a big giant type sword. So just something, you know, you can do, again, kind of a play feature. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you buy the Palatrex figure just for that, but just want to note it as something you could do. So that's my review. So overall, I think this isn't a bad figure. I do prefer his robot mode more than his ape mode just because of the articulation. I think it's very hard to pose him in actual ape-like poses in his ape form due to his leg articulation. So that's definitely my biggest complaint about the figure. But the overall detailing of it, again, especially in his robot mode, I think is very dead on to how the character appeared in the original Beast Wars cartoon. If you're a Beast Wars fan, if you're an Optimus Primal fan, I think this is one you're going to want to check out. Now this figure, along with the rest of the wave, has started to see a limited release, but I think you'll start seeing it in a wider release in about 5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. But definitely we're starting to see a limited release of these figures already. Now, a big thanks to Hasbro once again for sending me this figure so I could review it for you guys. As always, stay safe out there, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We do have a full image gallery for this figure along with all of Wave 1 over on Toy News International. I'll have a link to that in the video description below. Stay safe out there, guys, and until next time, I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.